Hi everyone, Othanino here, the internet's busiest music nerd. And it's time for a review of the new Mac Miller album, Swimming. This is the latest full-length album from rapper, singer, songwriter, producer Malcolm James McCormick, aka Mac Miller. Mac Miller has had a pretty long and interesting evolution, going from young, fratty pop rapper to left-field stoner rapping over Flying Lotus beats. These days, though, the guy seems to be kind of trapped in a moody emotional rut, where Mac's understated bars meet underwhelming instrumentals with some very moany singing and vocal lines that sound like Mac is simultaneously trying to hold a tune and a mouthful of water. Of course, I'm talking about Mac's last full-length LP, The Divine Feminine, a record that I found so traumatically boring that it feels like it came out 6 years ago to me, even though it just dropped in 2016. I don't know. As far as this new album goes, I went into it just crossing my fingers, hoping for some kind of change, but no, Swimming is yet another attempt by Miller to speed ahead in the syrupy alternative R&B lane, but the end results are about as fun as Rush Hour Traffic. The beats on this thing are consistently lifeless, spacey, and bland, which kind of hurts to say because looking at the production credits of this record, there are actually a lot of producers here that I like. Generally, the beats on this thing are pretty pleasant. Occasionally, they are show-stoppingly pretty, like in the case of 2009, but they're mostly wallpaper. From the wavy trap beat on Self-Care to the revving, farty synthesizers on the closing track, So It Goes. Occasionally a rhythm might pick up on this thing with a good beat and a great bass line, most notably on the track What's the Use, but I have never heard an artist who so effortlessly turns a funk rhythm section into something that sounds like you should be napping to it. Of course, Mac Miller's singing on this record is still moany, wheezy, flat, and awful. He still doesn't seem to have much in the way of any vocal presence, as his pitch, tone, and volume are still really weak, and there aren't really any weird or eccentric qualities to his voice either to make it appealing in an unconventional way. Moments where Mac's singing is in the spotlight, like on the start of Perfecto or on the end of Self-Care, in my opinion, border on parody and are borderline excruciating. Meanwhile, every warbly, squeaky vocal line throughout 2009, despite the track's gorgeous intro, just feels like I'm locked in a torture chamber. I'm wanting to scramble for anything that will drown out the sound, a car horn, a chainsaw, a crying baby, because on this track, Mac only sounds like 2 or 3 shades less comatose than Little Xan does. Occasionally, a melody that Mac rocks might be kind of cute, like on the intro track, the very heavenly Comeback to Earth, but always, time and time again throughout this record, his execution leaves so much to be desired. There are some moody, low-key jazz rap cuts on this thing that go over pretty well, like Hurt Feelings or the kind of silly Small Worlds cuts where Mac's bars, they may be understated, but his sense of humor and his wordplay really shine through. But these tracks are maybe the only two that I enjoyed from front to back. While his rapping on the rest of the record isn't usually that bad, he consistently gets in the way of his own good ideas by delivering this awful singing, where again, he's coming up short vocally and melodically, sometimes even getting in the way of some of the better instrumental ideas on this record, like the detuned ambience of the song Wings. Mac pretty much plays the role of wet blanket on this album, taking away more than he adds to the record with this, like, soul-crushing sense of listlessness. And that's what it is, this sense of ennui. I mean, the record doesn't even sound particularly sad to me, it just feels emotionally vacant. You either get moments like that on this record, or spots where, strangely enough, Mac is sounding kind of goofy, like over the celebratory funk of Ladders, or to mention the closing track once again, So It Goes. Yeah, overall, I didn't really care for this album at all. I feel like Mac just continues to work outside of his strengths and shows absolutely no effort to improve upon the very obvious weaknesses that his last album showed. Oddly enough, what Mac has been doing lately reminds me of the maturation trajectory. That sounds really pretentious, but you know, his getting more mature over time kind of reminds me of Tyler, the Creator's progression recently, but it's like Mac on this similar path is somehow getting worse. I can appreciate that he's trying to get more melodic. I can appreciate that he's trying to get more personal in his music. On paper, what Mac is trying to do should work, should be fantastic. But what he actually comes through with on this album is just too blasé for words. I'm feeling a light to decent 3 on this thing. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like, please subscribe, and please don't cry. Just leave a comment in the comments if you're feeling full of thoughts. Over here next to my head, another video you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Mac Miller, forever.